Purse Strings offers an available for hire network of vetted professionals who specialize in serving women. When you have a life event that has suddenly made money a priority, you can now move forward with a whole new confidence that you're getting advice and services from savvy professionals who are uniquely equipped to serve your needs. Go to pursestrings.co and use our directory of handpicked financial professionals when you're ready to plan for retirement, navigate divorce, buy your next home, fire up your new business, and more. Go to pursestrings.co or check the link in the show notes. Now you can be financially fearless.
Thank you, fearless listeners, and go you for hitting play. Please like and subscribe as it helps us grow. Also, share this with a friend as we have to keep talking about this shit. Now let's dive in. Coming up on today's edition of Women in Money, the shit we don't talk about, our guest is Candy Wolff. We happened to meet Candy over social media, and once she found out about Purse Strings, we connected. And we're so glad we did. Candy is going to share her powerful story with us today. We are grateful that Candy will share her experience of traveling on vacation with her husband, and her world turned upside down when she woke up one morning to find her husband had died of a heart attack overnight. Her story is a powerful one, and unfortunately, one we hear far too often. Let's dive in and hear about Candy's story.
Gloria Steinem once said, "We will never solve the feminization of power until we solve the masculinity of wealth." Barbara Provost and Maggie Nielsen are the team at Purse Strings that will help you navigate the ins and outs of financial independence so that you can be financially fearless. This is Women in Money, the shit we don't talk about.
Hey, Candy, welcome to the Purse Strings podcast. We are so honored to have you here today and share a bit about your personal story. Before we dive in, can we learn a little bit about you?
Yeah. First of all, I want to thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it. I think that what you guys do is amazing, and I'm excited to be here to be able to help one more woman, hopefully. So I live in Minnesota currently. I am a mother of 3 boys. I am the event manager for X Golf, so I take care of all of the events for the whole state of Minnesota. And in the meantime, I've started writing a book about my whole situation in Cabo, from my husband passing to all the financial stuff. And then we're going to actually put in the end of the book, my recent trip back down there to spread his ashes as well. So that's super exciting for me. So I'm very, very busy between work, my book, and then my youngest is a senior. So we're trying to figure out colleges and all that fun stuff this year. So navigating that, it's very interesting.
Yeah. Sounds like a lot going on for you, because this is fairly recent, right? I would just love you to kind of start at the beginning of your story about going on vacation with your husband and, share what you'd like to about the situation and what happened. How does that sound?
Sounds great. So yeah, it is recent. It was just actually 9 months on last Friday would have been the 9-month anniversary. So in January, I was turning 50 last January. And, through COVID and everything, we just hadn't really had a vacation. Nobody was going anywhere. So last fall, I told my husband, I'm like, we got to go somewhere. There's the 2 of us. We need to get out of, get away from the kids. And so let's go celebrate, my 50th. And we love Cabo. Like ever since we went there, starting in 2012, we just fell in love with it. So it was, of course, the place of choice. We have a dear friend that has a house down there, and that's normally where we stay every time. Well, this time it was kind of different. The house was already being used the week that we had booked our vacation. So we thought, okay, well, we'll stay at a resort and close to Cabo, where we can walk everywhere, and we'll be right down on Madano Beach, and it will be a different experience and it will be fun. So we went the end of January of 23, and the first few days, I guess, kind of back up, my husband had a hip surgery and a knee surgery last year as well. So taking into account, like looking back, at things. I had thought some of the tiredness and everything was from surgery. So,
Got it. Got
um,
it. Hmm.
yeah, to let you know that. So, the first day we got there, super excited. So we walked the beach down, downtown Cabo and back. And right away, his knee was hurting and he was tired. And I'm like, oh my gosh, this is not good. So he went and rested. And, we had a good, 4 days down there celebrating. But it was interesting, he had been tired a whole bunch and was sleeping. And I just figured we've just been walking and doing so much that
Hmm.
that's why he was tired. Well, January 27th, 23, I woke, my phone rang actually. It was 7-Eleven and it was Dodge of Burnsville calling about my car. And so, of course, I answer it and, talk to him about my car's ready to get fixed. And I was like, I'll call the kids, they'll come pick it up. It's all good. You think it's a regular day. I had looked over because funny, I have restless leg syndrome and my husband snores so much. So
Yeah.
I ended up sleeping on the pullout that night just because my legs were so bad. And so when I got off the phone, I kind of just looked over and he was really still and it was super quiet. And I'm like, this is kind of really strange. And his head was kind of buried into the sheets a little bit. And so I got up and walked around and I felt his feet and they were cold. And I climbed on the bed and, was touching his back and he wasn't breathing and he was cold. At that point, I knew that he was not alive. So of course, I'm crying and screaming and pounding on him to wake up. And I kind of was able to get him rolled over a little bit to see, that he was blue. So, at that point, you're in Mexico and I think, okay, I call down to the main desk. I pick up the phone. I hit 0, hoping somebody will answer that, that it's the same there as in here. And the front desk answered right away. I was hysterical and they were trying to calm me down, telling me they were going to send up the doctor and send up security, and I needed to go and lock the door. So I went over and unlocked it, and then they came back and I got back on the phone and they were like, just stay with us, until everyone gets up there. They had come, I dropped the phone, not even thinking about it. They put the oximeter, right on his finger. And of course, there was nothing, and basically they all kind of just left me in the room. It was, they're like, yeah, he is passed. So they kind of leave and I'm sitting there with my husband
Oh
who
my
has
gosh. What were you
passed.
supposed to do? Did they
I
give you any
no,
instruction or who to
no,
call or my
they
gosh.
they're like, I guess they just said we'll be back. And but that was about it, So I got up on the bed and I was holding him. And he had a silver cross necklace that I had bought him a while ago. And just in my head, I just felt like God was telling me, you need to take that off. You got to get that off of him. And so I, unhooked it and, he was kind of getting, stiff because rigor mortis had set in. So I got it off, stuck it in my pocket. And then this girl walks in or knocks and comes in and she becomes literally my guardian angel for the rest of the time. She was a staff member from the resort who walked in and she, introduced herself and she's like, I'm going to be here with you through this whole thing. So, you know, just know that you can trust me and I'm here to help. And she's bilingual, so which helped.
Hmm.
But the first thing she asked was, where's your husband's phone? And I'm like, are you kidding me? That's like the last thing I'm thinking about, where his phone is. And I'm like, I have no idea. I don't know. And she's like, we have to find your husband's phone. So she starts searching around and she ends up finding it right before first set of police come in and sticks it in her pocket. And then the police, this is the first round, they escort me out. She's like, okay, we have to leave. So I went to try to grab my purse, to take with me. And they're like, nope, this is a crime scene. You can't
Oh
touch
my gosh.
anything. Yeah. And like a crime scene. Oh my good. Of course, then panic sets in and
Sure, because you're in Mexico.
exactly. And I don't speak Spanish. So I wasn't able to take anything with me. I did have my phone in my pocket and she had my husband's phone. So they brought me to another room because they're like, we have to do the investigation, and I'm like, okay. And by this, I'm like literally out of my mind.
Mm-hmm.
Like, this is not real, like totally
It's a bad,
hysterical.
bad dream.
Yeah, that's what it's like.
Yeah.
Am I going to wake up and this is going to be over? But it wasn't. Yeah, so then they took me to another room, and then the U.S. Embassy ended up calling me, telling me kind of what, was going to happen, about I had to make a decision whether or not I was going to cremate him, I was going to ship him back. And I'm like, are you kidding me? This is all like within an hour of
Oh my
me like
gosh.
realizing my husband had passed. It was really and really, really insane. So, anyways, it probably was a good 4 or 5 hours, that they did the investigation and, all that stuff up in the room. But my friend was with me the whole time, and, she kept trying to get me to eat, to take a shower. And I was like, are you kidding me? I don't want to eat. I don't want to shower. I want my stuff. I want my husband. Um, but she was really, really sweet, sweet, sweet angel. So, in the meantime, I'm calling my mother-in-law, calling my parents. My middle son, who's 20, well, he was 20 at the time, was staying with the youngest, who was a junior at that point. And my mother-in-law was Arizona Winterbird, and my parents are Winterbird. So um, my called my parents, and the first thing my dad wants to do is, he's in down by like Goodyear area, so more southern,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
not Tucson down that way. But anyways, he's like, all right, we're driving down. I'm like, are you kidding me? You are not driving through Mexico. You guys are going to be 80 years old. You're not driving through Mexico. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, Dad, I need you back in Minnesota with the kids. I have no idea how long I'm going to be here. I'll deal with this, just pack your stuff and get to Minnesota. So they packed their stuff up and drove straight up to, can't remember how many hours it was, to get here to the kids. And my mother-in-law is in Tucson. So an uncle flew down to get her, to fly her back as well.
Wow.
So meantime, everybody was home and I was in Mexico dealing with all of this. So it was nuts. So you get all those phone calls
Yeah.
done, and then finally I'm able to, they said, we have to move your rooms. Do you want to go see your husband? And I thought that's probably the last time I was going to see him. So of
Mm-hmm.
course I said, yes, 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 I do. And thank God that, like, so the bellman, a couple of them came with me, and my other friend from the resort, and they had yellow tape, on the door. And of
Oh my
course we were
gosh.
on the eighth level, the top floor, and everyone by that time is, there's chaos going on. So
Mm-hmm.
everyone's staring at you. And, they did the best to try to keep people away. But
Mm-hmm.
as soon as I saw that yellow tape, like, I just got nauseous, and they took it down. And like when I walked around, they had him completely flipped over. And, so it had been almost 13 or 14 hours since he had passed. So he
Mm-hmm.
looked obviously horrible. And I literally fell to my knees. The bellman,
Mm-hmm.
picked me up and brought me over there. And so I was able, to spend a few minutes with him,
Mm-hmm.
telling him I love him, and before the coroner took him to go do the autopsy. And here then we have my room, and I'm not kidding, it looked like a raid. It was,
Yeah.
they had all the drawers pulled out, stuff was everywhere. And um, they, but so they had stuff like the drawers out, and, I guess the stuff was everywhere, but it was like a mess, like in a pile, if that
What
makes
were they
any sense.
looking for? Just looking through
They
everything?
were
Just
looking, yeah, because just to make sure, because they said,
No
well,
drugs,
there's
no
no
harm of
puncture.
anyone else.
Well,
And
yeah.
no puncture wounds, cuts, no broken glass, no,
Yeah.
like I, had did something to
Mm-hmm.
him, I
Mm-hmm.
guess, is
Mm-hmm.
kind of what they were ruling out. And so all the police leave, and so the bellmen start putting my stuff. I mean, I didn't get a pack. It was just the police had piles of crap, and they put it on the cart, and they were bringing me down to another room. And I just remember we had bought all this food because it was a little kitchenette, and looking at the bellman, and I'm like, well, you guys need this food. I'm not going to eat it,
Yeah.
so take it. And they're like looking at me. They're like, no, you might want. I'm like, no, I'm not going to eat. You need it. Take it. And like I demanded it. Like I was in such shock. And
Yeah.
they're like, I'm like, if you guys don't split it up, I'm splitting it up. So you guys figure out what you want. Otherwise, I will figure it out for you. And they're probably looking at me going, this lady is crazy. So we get down to the new room, and my other, my friend from the hotel, she's like, all right, now we need to find your wallets. And so we dig through, and I find my husband's wallet. I open it up, all the cash is gone.
What?
Yeah. And so then I find my purse, open it up, all my cash is gone. And
No.
yeah, and I just start crying. I'm like, are you kidding me? Like they stole all of my money. And so she's like, it was funny because, I was in such shock, but my friend, she had scanned the room. Like that's what she was doing. Like, and I didn't know it, but she was looking at everything we had out, like taking an inventory of it. She's like, where are all those cohibas, those cigars? Because my husband he loved cigars. And so the night before, had bought him 2 packs of cohibas, and then we had went to San Jose and watched him roll cigars. So I had bought him 5 of those. So there had been like 15 cigars. They're gone.
Oh my
I'm like,
God.
okay, let's see. So then she's like, gets out a piece of paper, and she's like, all right, now we got to document all this. And so then it was like all his Oakleys were gone. We had some clothing that was gone. They even took my contact lenses, which I'm like,
Who
why,
took all
why?
this stuff?
The police. And so we we made a report and talked to the general manager, whatever, and he said, well, we can submit this to the police, but here's the case is 3 different sets of police went through. So we have no idea who took all this. And I'm like, are you kidding me? We're going to submit this to the police. I'm in Mexico, and they're going to know I'm accusing them of stealing all my stuff. My husband's passed. And I'm like, no, I don't want to do a
Right.
report
Right.
yet. I'm like, when I get back into the US, that will be another story, but I'm like, who steals stuff from someone that just lost their spouse? But
That's crazy.
yeah, it was nuts. So here I am in Mexico, no cash whatsoever, credit cards. But yeah, that was an interesting day. The funeral home person, ended, come during that time as well, and asks, so what do you want to do? And it's like, well, I said he came with me down here, so he's going home with me. So I'm gonna have him cremated,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and then it was the right choice to make, I believe, because talking with people, it's so expensive, I guess, by the time you buy the casket, and then you
Yeah.
have to pay for the airfare, and it, and here I'm thinking, I have no money right now. Like, what am I gonna do? And so, we decided to cremate him so he could come home with me in his little box. So the next that day we talked about it, and it's like, okay, this is what's going to happen, but they have to do the autopsy first, and then we'll go from there. She's like, I'll call you, but you have to do an interview. And I'm like, okay, I've never been through this before, so I'm naive. And I'm an
Mm-hmm.
interview, I don't think anything of it. And I'm like, okay, sounds good. And it's like, well, I'll come pick you up at 9 o'clock in the morning. We'll go do it. All right. So next morning, the funeral home person comes and gets me, and we're driving. And she's like, so that's where he'll be cremated. That's my office. There's the funeral home. And then we just kept driving. And at that point, I'm like, where are we going? So I take out my phone, text my brother-in-law, and I'm like, FYI, I am in the car with the lady from the funeral home. No idea where I'm going, but just know who I'm with right now.
Right. Were you
Yeah,
scared? I bet you were scared.
point I'm like, are you kidding me? Like, where are you taking me? So then I finally did ask. I'm like, so where are we going? And she's like, oh, to the police station. At that point, I wanted to throw up in her car because I'm like, I'm never going home. Like, I'm going to go to this police station and I'm going to jail. Like,
Oh
they're
my
going to,
gosh.
that's all I could think in my head. And it was funny because my Apple Watch is like going off when your heart rate is abnormally high. It's
Oh
like, yeah, it is. It was, yeah. So super crazy. So we walk in and get into this room where there's one girl and then two detectives, and they're big guys and they're sitting behind their desks with their arms crossed and their legs crossed and straight face on them. And I am just I'm trying my best to hold this together because I know they're the ones that took everything from me,
oh yeah.
and I have no control of anything right now. It's my life has completely spun out of control. So I was able to keep my phone though, and I was texting with my brother-in-law, and they're speaking Spanish. And so we were there for 3 hours, and I kind of just sat there, and they were, going back and forth asking questions, and then, she would ask me a little bit, and then the funeral home lady was interpreting for me. And I remember just telling everybody, he's so cold. He's so cold. Like that was what kept going through my head. And, all I heard her say was muy frio, muy frio. So I
Mm-hmm.
knew
Mm-hmm.
they were talking about that. That's like a few words I know. um, then probably they kept asking about the phone. Why was the phone off the hook? And I'm like, are you kidding me? Like my husband's dead and you want to know why the phone was off the hook? And so I just was like, I'm sure I just dropped it. I was talking with the people down, the front desk people, and they
Mm-hmm.
told me to stay on the phone until someone came. And like, I'm sorry, but it was the last thing I thought to hang up the phone. I just dropped
Mm-hmm.
it.
Mm-hmm.
So finally, I looked at the lady that I was with, and I'm like, is anyone going to tell me how my husband died? And it was like no big deal. The right out of their mouth was, oh, made a massive heart attack. And I'm like, so why am I
Yeah.
sitting here being questioned about all this? And you knew he died of a massive heart attack. And, they're like, no puncture wounds, none. And I'm like, of course not.
Yeah.
But yet I'm being, interrogated in a sense of stupid things. So that went on, but literally texting my brother-in-law the whole time. And we have a really good friend that actually had an attorney on speed dial for me if
Oh,
I needed it
good.
because, what do
Yeah.
you do?
Yeah. So
Yes.
did they finally let you go and let you go home?
So they let me, yeah, so it was like a little over 3 hours and they finally left. And I guess I step back to, I guess what completely took me by surprise was when we walked into the room, the detective's room, they had two files. And one was Ross Lindsay Wellhoff and the other was Candace May Wolf. And so that's why I guess, too, like went right and I walked in, I'm like, oh my God, they have a file on me.
Yeah.
I'm going to prison, you know?
Oh God.
So it was insane 3+ hours. So yeah, so at that time, then it was finally I had to identify. He had a tattoo. And it was he had the Theater of Pain, the Motley Crue tattoo on his
Oh,
leg,
really?
and I'm trying to explain to him. I'm like, it's a happy smiley face theater, and they have no idea. So I'm Googling Motley Crue Theater of Pain to show them.
Yeah.
I'm like, this is what it looks like. And like, yes. So like, okay, yeah, that's him. So then I get to go back to the hotel and then she tells me that she has to talk with the coroner to see, when they can do the cremation, because right at this point, this was Friday. We were supposed to be leaving Saturday.
Mm.
So I then have to, call Delta and try to figure out when I'm going home, and which I don't know because they have no way of telling me when I'm going home. And so, anyways, we get back to the hotel, and she's like, "Okay, I will call you and let you know when the cremation will take place, when I'll have the paperwork and all that. So just go relax, have fun." So,
Oh my
I'm like,
gosh.
okay,
You're
what
in
am I gonna
Cabo.
do? Yeah. So, my friend again from the resort met me right away, and she's like, you know what? Just go sit down on the beach. You just go talk to them, go sit down, go enjoy yourself as much as you can. The the ocean is so healing, and
Mm-hmm.
like, just, go talk to God and just go cry, go do whatever you need to do, but go down by the ocean. So I did. I spent that afternoon down there, and then later that day found out I would get the ashes at around noon on Sunday. So then I could make my plane, everything to go, my plane arrangements to go home, get the driver. So, which was good. So finally, Monday, I got home probably like at 10 o'clock Monday night.
What a relief, huh? To get out
Yeah,
of
it
there.
was, oh my gosh, you have no idea. And it was crazy because, you go to the airport and here you have this box of, my husband's in a bag in
Isn't
this
that
heavy
crazy?
box, and I have all the paperwork. And I have to say, Delta was absolutely amazing because as soon as I walk in, I go through the line, the guy asks me, why were you here? And of course, I start crying and like, well, it was for my 50th and my husband's in here. And he must have like called somebody. I was able to get right up. There was a red jacket lady up there, moving me up, getting me the best seat possible and saying they're going to take care of me. And so
Nice.
that was really, really nice. That was like they
That-
knew how stressed out I was. So they
yeah,
took
I
care of
bet.
me. Yeah. So,
So,
you think that's the end and then you get home.
right, then you get home and yeah, I mean, did you have to wait? Did you have to pay for the cremation and all that? How did you pay
Oh,
for
yeah.
that?
Gosh, yes. Forgot to tell about that. That was an interesting story. So before we could even have him cremated, she had picked me up. Okay, so Saturday, I was at the police in the morning for those 3 hours, whatever, brought me home back to the hotel. I spent 3, 4 hours outside. She picked me up later on that day, and we had to, so I could go pay for the cremation. And um, the girls my friend at the hotel was like, use your husband's credit card because I believe if you use that, he's passed away. You won't have to pay for it. Your name's not on it. And then all I could think about is that's fraudulent. I would get in trouble for that and
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
pass. Like, I can't do that. So here I pull out my American Express and she's like, oh, we don't take American Express.
Oh my God.
And it's $1,700. So, I'm like, well, I've got to charge it because,
Mm-hmm.
I have no cash to pay you. Um, and so then I take out my Verizon card, or no, I was my Apple card and tried it, declined, because I'm in a foreign country. So then I take out my Verizon credit card, hand it, and at least right away they pinged me, and said
Mm-hmm.
fraudulent activity, is this you or not? So right then and there I was able to
Good.
talk to someone and get that process. So that was stressful because I'm like, okay, now great. I can't even pay for him to take him
Yeah.
home because you don't take my American Express card. Yeah. So
Wow.
yeah, it
So when you
was.
got home, did you have any financial people to call? Like, let's focus on your finances, right? Like, what are the next
Yes.
things that you do?
So that's, I thought my world was upside down when my husband passed, but then, I got home and, we had joint accounts. So I knew how much was in our checking and savings accounts. As far as that, he took care of his, 401k, and our credit cards were separate. But I guess, when you get home, I really wasn't thinking about that. My thought was, okay, now I got to start planning the funeral. So, but you have a stack of mail. And
Mm-hmm.
so one of the first things I opened was a letter stating that Ross had pulled the last bit of the 401k money before we left. He had not been working the last couple of years, and so that's what had been helping pay the bills. I knew it was getting low, but I didn't know he closed out the account. So that was a complete shock to me looking at our, checking savings. Like, I have $60,000. I that's
That's all you
I knew,
had left.
yeah, I knew, life insurance, but but right at that time it's like, how am I going to do this? I have $60,000 and, I work, but our bills are way more than what
Yeah.
I make. So thank God my dad's a finance guy. So he's like, all right, we'll call Kevin. because I knew Kevin was the finance guy. It was someone he went to high school with. I'd never met him before, but I just knew Kevin takes care of his finance. They're the 401k and the kids' 529s.
Mm-hmm.
So my dad's like, well, let's focus on getting the funeral, and we'll deal with this, little by little. But then to top everything off, I had already scheduled a surgery for a week after we got back from Mexico down in Rochester, down at the Mayo Clinic. And I'm like, I got to cancel the surgery. I can't do it. My dad's like, nope, I'm taking you down there. You're going to do it. We're here to help. And um, you're getting the surgery. Ross would want it. And I'm like, oh my, what else can we add to the plate here?
Yeah, right. Exactly.
And so, here I know I have like $60,000 and I show up and the insurance thing hadn't went through yet. So they're like, well, this really isn't paid for. So you need to sign that you'll pay $30,000 if the insurance doesn't approve
Oh
the
my God.
surgery. And I'm like, oh Lord. What do you do? You're there. And
Yeah.
so like, well, it's in God's hands. Hopefully it comes through. And so I guess my dad, I don't remember this, but it must have been when they put drugs in me or whatever. I told him that, or they had told me insurance approved. So that was
Cool.
kind of a relief, at least
Yeah.
for there. So anyway, that week we were home, but from the time I got home to the surgery, my dad, and I'm like, I don't know. I don't know what we pay. I have no idea. My husband took care of everything. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know where the house payment is. I don't know the utilities. I I know our insurance guy is his cousin who I know.
Mm-hmm.
Life insurance, I'm sure it's in the lockbox. Well, thank goodness for my child for remembering, because I'm like, I don't even know how to get into the lockbox. I don't remember the code. So yeah, so you get home, you're dealing with a death, and then your finance, you have no idea what's going on, like what's going to happen to your life.
Yeah.
Because I I was that person who, was just sat back and said, "Okay, you got it. We're
Yeah.
we're fine." He was just a very traditional man.
Mm-hmm.
And so at that point, then you start digging through. It's like, okay, so how much is our house payment? Who does the house payment go to? Utilities are all in his names. Oh, guess what? The vehicles are all in his name, nobody else's names. So you start digging into all of this, and it's it just starts snowballing, and you don't even know where to begin. It's
It's a
so stressful.
lot.
It is.
But he did have life insurance.
Yes, so which was good. And that was a little bit of a struggle as well, being that he died out of the country.
Mm.
And it was two different, one was through State Farm and one was through what it used to be, the General. I don't know who it is
Yeah.
now, but that's who it was with. And so I had a State Farm agent, but I did not have an agent for the other one.
Mm-hmm.
So I had to take care of that like all on my own.
Mm-hmm.
And State Farm, actually, it's just funny. Like when I had the agent and he was amazing, but I had to do an interview. They had to do an investigation. They sent somebody to Cabo. Then they got all the paperwork
They
back,
sent somebody to Cabo?
yeah, because the lady told me that 5% of deaths outside the United States that have life insurance are fraudulent, like people are really alive.
Oh,
So
God.
I'm like, oh, she's like, and I'm not saying that this is you,
Right.
but it's their policy. Like
Yeah.
that's what they have to do. She's like, we're not, it's $250,000. She's like, it's not like millions, but,
Yeah.
and the funny thing is we had that policy for like 14 years. And I think we had the general for like 4, and that was, like 250,000 as well. I ended up getting the general's life insurance with me doing everything within 3 weeks.
Wow.
And it took almost 5 months to get State Farms. So,
Wow.
but it was a relief, at least when that money did come through,
Yeah.
because
You needed it. Yeah.
I did. And then all of a sudden you think, oh my gosh, this has to last me till I die now.
Yeah.
Like,
What do you do?
so what do you do? So it's tough, and not knowing, not knowing passwords to get into the phone, not knowing the password to get into his computer, not knowing how to get into his email. We even took his computer up to the police station, which is right around the corner from me. And I asked them, I'm like, is there any way you guys can get into this for me? Because my husband passed, I had death certificates from
Yeah.
Mexico at least. And they're like, no, because we don't know
Mm-hmm.
if there is an ongoing investigation or anything.
Mm.
So they couldn't help me. But my middle son's an IT guy, so he at least got me into the emails
Mm-hmm.
because as the house payment, all the utilities, everything was all electronic. Like there's no paper trail. So I didn't even like where to begin.
So, we talked, and I know you're writing a book,
Yes.
right? Telling your whole story. But focusing on the financials, which is what Purse Strings is all about, give us some advice that you would give to women based on everything that you've been through in your whole story.
My gosh, yes. That's why I am writing the book, Lost and Found in Mexico. And it's on that story, but it's tied into kind of what you guys do as well, which I think you guys do an amazing job. But it is knowing every couple, I don't know, I don't care who you are, needs to know like where the money is, how much money there is, who is your agents, who does the house payment go to? Where are you at on the house payment? Do you have a second mortgage on it? Vehicles. There should be two names on those vehicles, not
Mm-hmm.
just one. Thank goodness we had joint accounts at the bank. And, I know the bank people very well, but we had to, as soon as someone dies, they stop all automatic payments, which means every single utility, all of our house payment, everything got stopped. And everyone kept saying, you have to make sure you pay your house because you cannot lose your house. You got to pay that house
Right.
payment. I don't even know who to pay.
Come
Yeah.
at me because then I'll know who I'm supposed to pay.
Exactly. Um, yeah, and so like my name was not the mortgage, but on the deed. So thank God it was on at least the deed of the house. But
Yeah. That you were part of the, yeah.
yeah,
Wow.
but
And
just
just knowing
oh,
that, right? Where's my name? What are my responsibilities? That is so important.
it's so important. I mean, everyone needs to know where everything is. Like you need to know the accounts. Like with credit cards too. I thank God, he had like three of them that he kept in his wallet. So I was able to call, and get those canceled. But if somebody has more credit cards than what they carry with them,
Right.
what do you do? What if someone gets a hold of, because people do look at the obituaries, and which I found out, I had no, this is how naive I am, but they start pretending to be that person and they can start using anything that is in that name. And I would have, never, I wouldn't know about it because they
Yeah.
can change the address, they can do whatever they want to do. So just being open and having those conversations and making sure you have names on everything, like jointly.
Right.
It would save so many people so much trouble in the long run.
Yeah. And with that being said, we do have a family emergency guide, and we're going to put a link to that in the podcast notes, which is free for the taking. You can just click on that link and download it. It's very comprehensive. It has a lot of pages in it, but that's okay because it covers a lot of details. Get that printed off somewhere, either at home or at Staples or something. Put it in a binder and start filling it out. And then, Candy, it has everything that you say is needed right in that guide, right? Wouldn't you
Yeah.
be so
I
thankful if you just came home to that guide?
You have no idea. Like after you and I talked, and I went on there and I printed it out, and I'm like, this is a lifesaver. Like this, I mean, it would have opened up conversations for one, because people, first of all, they don't like to have money
Right?
conversations,
Mm-hmm.
or they never think anything's going to happen, which is completely wrong. I mean, we have no idea, when we're going to go.
Right.
And when I printed this out, I'm like, this is what I needed like beforehand.
Right.
And
Right.
I would have known what to do. And I would have been able, I mean, even if he would have been stubborn and said, well, you really don't need to be on this or whatever, at least I would have known, okay, this is who our
Yes.
mortgage company is, and this are the vehicles. Okay, I knew our vehicles were paid off, thank God. But I think so many people are just really naive, which I was. And like, if I can tell my story and help one person be able to open up that conversation between them and their spouse or their partner or whoever to make sure you know where you're at, because there is nothing scarier than losing somebody and then not knowing where you're at. And the first thing my youngest son said to me as soon as I walked through the door when I got home from Mexico was, as it just always makes me tear up, but are we going to be able to stay in our house, Mom?
Oh.
And I couldn't answer it because I didn't know. I didn't know what we owed. I didn't know what our house payment was. And that was, I think, the worst thing is when your kids are, old enough to, he was a junior. So that's what he worried about was, do I get a stay in my home? And, I looked at him and I said, I will do anything and everything to make sure you're able to stay here. I don't know, I'm like, I have to figure out our finances. I got to figure out where we are with everything. But, that's the one promise I did make to him was somehow, some way, I'm not going to make you move, So.
Yeah. Tough.
Yeah.
Okay. So we have a few minutes left. Tell us the name of your book, when it will be out, and where we can get it from.
Yes. So it's called Lost and Found in Mexico, A Widow's Road to Recovery. We are in the middle of it. We're shooting for like the first of the year. And then I'm actually in the process of starting a company, Irreplaceably You. So once the website is up and going, you'll be able to buy it on that, but it will be on Amazon as well. The publisher will be taking care of that for me too, so people can buy it on Amazon and through the website once it gets going.
Awesome. Your story is so important, Candy. I mean, your ability to kind of reveal everything that happened, kind of your vulnerabilities of where you didn't know what you didn't know and what happened. We appreciate you coming on the Purse Strings podcast and really sharing it with us today because it's powerful. And unfortunately, we hear stories like this a lot. And so Purse Strings' mission is to get women to start talking about money, providing free resources for women so that they can open the conversation, like the emergency guide that we'll be providing. But also, if you need financial professionals to help you at any point in time, we have a whole directory of vetted financial professionals who are geared to serve women. Many focus on divorce, widows, special needs, LGBTQ, any situation that you're in, because Purse Strings wants to be that go-to resource, Candy, so that women are in front of these situations and not kind of stuck in the situation like you were, where you just didn't know. You just didn't know. I mean, no judgment at all. It's you were just doing what you were doing as your role in your family, but we need to realize that we need to step in and really be part of the conversation.
Yes, for sure. And I'm so glad that we met before my book is being published as well, because I want, to put your Purse Strings in there as a resource, because I do want to have a resource page, because what you guys do is so important. And I'm not kidding. Like, it would have saved me months of stress of, having everything in one spot. So I cannot say it enough that people need to get your packet, download it, and fill it out and keep it somewhere, but they need it.
Yeah. Thank you. Well, thank you, Candy, for coming on today and sharing your powerful story. I'm sure you're going to help many, many women by sharing it. We hope to help as well by having them grab that guide and take care of themselves and their family just by completing it. So anything else to add, Maggie?
No, yeah. Thank you again, Candy, for sharing your story. That was really brave of you, and we appreciate you sharing it. So, let's take some action, dive into our financial conversations, and thank you everyone today for listening. So please like and subscribe, and we'll talk to you all soon.
Information is for illustrative purposes only and does not constitute tax, investment, or legal advice. Always consult with a qualified investment, legal, or tax professional before taking any action.
Purse Strings offers an available for hire network of vetted professionals who specialize in serving women. When you have a life event that has suddenly made money a priority, you can now move forward with a whole new confidence that you're getting advice and services from savvy professionals who are uniquely equipped to serve your needs. Go to pursestrings.co and use our directory of handpicked financial professionals when you're ready to plan for retirement, navigate divorce, buy your next home, fire up your new business, and more. Go to pursestrings.co or check the link in the show notes. Now you can be financially fearless.